A man kissed me in my own house. Not my husband, my driver. Before you judge me, hear me out. Because that kiss wasn't about romance, it was a flare in the dark. A desperate way to keep me from walking blind into a trap that could have taken my name, my money, maybe even my life. If it were you, what would you have done? My name is Amelia. I grew up in a big house where people whispered when they walked and polished doorknobs you could see your face in. My father built a company from the ground up, shipping logistics investments. Nothing flashy from the outside, but solid in the way old bridges are solid. He used to say, trust people, but confirm stewardship is responsibility. I thought I understood those words. Turns out I had to learn them the hard way. Everyone said my husband, Chinedu, and I were a power couple. We had the photos, the galas, the handshakes, the speeches about legacy and community. But power couples don't wake up every morning with a weight on the chest and a smile glued to the face. He started leaving early. Another meeting, another emergency, and the house began to feel like an expensive hotel someone forgot to fill with love. You know what I mean? I kept telling myself it was just a seasoned business, ebbs and flows, men carry pressure differently. Then little things started to flicker at the edges. Properties my father marked as never sell suddenly transferred. Paperwork drifting through the office with lines blacked out like they were embarrassed. A hotel key card tucked into a newspaper 2 days old. Maybe I should have asked him straight to his face, but when you are trying to hold a life together, you pick your battles carefully. Too carefully. Dennis had been in my family's life since I was barely out of college. He came to us when my father paid for his mother's surgery, sent him to driving school, and gave him a job. Everyone saw a driver in a pressed uniform. I saw reliability. A quiet, tall man who opened doors, knew when to speak, and more importantly, when not to. What I didn't see, not at first, was how closely he watched the details I was missing. The morning it all tipped, I was in my father's old study fingers on the spine of his black ledger, the one he used to keep notes the way some men keep prayers. Dennis stepped in, hesitant, asked if I was all right. I said I was fine. That automatic lie we all use when we are anything but. He lingered, swallowed, and then it happened. He crossed the room and kissed me. A quick, shocking press of lips, not passionate, not tender, just alarming. My hand flew before my mind did. I shoved him back so hard the chair bumped the wall. What on earth do you think you're doing? I was shaking, furious, humiliated. He put his hands up. Don't call security, please, listen. I had to get your attention. He swore he meant no disrespect. He said my husband wasn't just cheating. He was moving money, saying things on the phone no man should say if his wife is within breathing distance, and planning something worse. I wanted to throw him out. I wanted to punish him for touching me. But then he started giving details. Dates, addresses, the names of banks on the island. The exact perfume he smelled when he waited outside a hotel. And a sentence I still hear sometimes at night. I think he wants access to your late father's accounts, the ones you never talk about. Pattern interrupt. My breath stopped. Do you think that's fair, by the way? That the person who warns you has to break a rule to make you listen? I hate that kiss. I'm grateful for it too. Both can be true. I told him to leave. I sat alone in that room and stared at the ledger. On the back page in my father's neat hand, private accounts and shares in Amelia's name confidential. I'd almost forgotten that conversation. He tucked some investments away for my safety with a look that said, one day you'll need this. My hands went cold. I heard the front gate, the house exhale. My husband's cologne hit the hallway before he did. I smiled at him at dinner, asked about his day, laughed in the right places. I went to bed and didn't sleep. The next morning I built a trap with nothing but air and a voice. I stood within earshot of the staircase and called an old accountant, or rather I pretended to. Yes, those private accounts in my name, the 5 million, the shares my father held aside for me. I lifted my tone like I was half joking, half careless. I didn't have to look to know he'd frozen mid-step. I felt it, that little hunger in the air. He came down smiling, "Oh, love, you never mentioned those, let me help you manage them." Of course he would say that. Later I stretched out on the sofa and closed my eyes. He stepped onto the balcony to make a phone call. He thought I was asleep, and he spoke like men speak when they think nobody's listening. He told someone named Belinda we'd start draining the account quietly, that we'd move the shares through a shell, that by the time I noticed we'd be gone. He said if I caused a fuss, there were always accidents, heart attacks, slippery pools, and I lay there with my heart pounding like a hammer against glass. He laughed. I went still as stone, and I decided not to scream, not to storm, not to break anything. Not yet. Without proof, the world loves to call women dramatic. I called Dennis to the study and said the words you only say when you burn a bridge behind you. I heard everything. He changed just for a second. From the careful driver to a man who had made a promise to my father at a hospital bed. "What do you want me to do?" he asked. "Watch him, follow him, record collect, bring me the facts, and do not tell a soul." "Yes, ma'am." 2 nights later, we parked 3 blocks from an apartment Belinda used. She came out in a red dress, clicking away like the world was her runway. We slipped inside after she left, quick and quiet. The place smelled like expensive sugar. On the dresser lay a gold necklace. I knew it because I owned it, or thought I did. The exact anniversary piece my husband had fastened around my neck with a kiss. Only here, it was again resting on a stranger's wood. A wristwatch besides it. My birthday gift replicated. Then the handbags, the bracelets, the receipts with my husband's handwriting, and that ridiculous flourish he believes is a signature. I sat on the edge of her bed and cried so hard the room blurred. Love makes you blind. Yeah, that happened. Dennis knelt, voice low. Don't blame yourself, loyalty watches when others can't see. My father didn't just employ me to drive a car. He put me here to stand in the gap. I felt something harden in me then. Since they think I'm a fool, let's show them what a fool can do. We photographed everything, logged it, locked the door, walked away into a night that suddenly tasted metallic. Now, here's the twist that flipped the game. Up to that point, I believed the plan was steal and run. Ugly but familiar. What I didn't know, and what you need to hear because it changed everything, is that Belinda wasn't simply a mistress with a taste for jewelry. She was a partner with a plan. The bank officer who kept letting wires slide through without scrutiny, her cousin. The shell company director, her ex. She wasn't riding along, she was steering. So while Chinedu thought he was the mastermind, he was a mark, and the exit strategy did not include him after the money moved. Stick around, because what happened next will blow your mind. I gave Dennis a small recorder the size of a thumbnail. I told my husband over breakfast that maybe he should handle the accounts. He did that little look-away smile people do when they think they won a secret game. That evening I walked lightly along the upstairs corridor, while he laughed on the phone in the study below. "Everything I do is for you," he said into the receiver, meaning Belinda. The fool thinks I love her. His words, not mine. He promised her 3 kids and a house by the water, and a life bought with money my father earned loading trucks in the rain. He said once the transfer hit, we disappear, and the only thing left of Amelia will be a story. Then he said something I will never forget. I never loved her, I married the access. I pressed stop on the recorder with a thumb that wouldn't stop shaking. The next day, we moved quietly. Dennis coordinated with 2 officers we could trust. Not the kind that pose for photos, the kind that sign arrest warrants. In the early afternoon, I walked into the study, and he hid papers like a child caught cheating. "My love," he said, "you came at the right time. For us." I took the recorder out of my pocket, pressed play, and put it on his desk like a tiny coffin. His voice filled the room. The color drained from his face, then came back in patches, then left again. He tried to smile, then to rage, then to plead. "Save it for the judge," I said, and the door opened behind me to uniforms and inked paperwork and the dull sound of handcuffs. He shouted my name down the hallway as they led him past the portraits. The house was very quiet after that. Court isn't TV. It's hours in cold rooms and hard benches and forms with lines you keep missing the right box for. It's seeing your life flattened into exhibits and hearing your pain called evidence. But when the judge read the charges, fraud, theft, conspiracy, and when the recordings and the receipts and Belinda's apartment photos lined up in a neat row like dominoes, the gavel came down. Chinedu went from glossy magazine covers to a state-issued jumpsuit. The papers used the word fallen. I don't think he fell. I think he climbed a ladder he knew was nailed to nothing. "You want another twist?" In the holding room, Belinda walked in heels and left without whatever feeling he thought she had for him. She told him the truth. No money, no power, no me. He said, "After everything I did for you," she said, "after everything you destroyed for me." And that was the last time he saw her. The same hunger he had for my accounts ate him from the inside out. Back at the office, I stood in my father's chair, and it didn't feel too big anymore. I told the board from today, transparency is the rule. Loyalty gets rewarded. Every wire carries 2 signatures, and one of them is mine. I turned to Dennis, still in his driver's uniform, at the door, like he didn't belong in rooms with carpet that thick, and I said, "You're not just a driver anymore. You're my aide." He shook his head, said he wasn't worthy. I said, "My father trusted you, and I do too. That's enough." We also started something new, the Henry Foundation. For widows, for orphans, for kids who can't afford tuition when life knocks the wind out of their families. First seed money came from accounts that had been frozen, then freed. We called it an investment in people because that's all capital is, at the end of the day, a tool to move pain in the right direction. At the opening, I spoke without notes. My voice shook once, then steadied. The applause sounded different than at galas, warmer, less brittle. Of course, life is not a neat movie. Nights got quiet in a way that isn't peaceful. I still wake up sometimes to the sound of the balcony door opening in my mind. But I don't live afraid. Dennis stopped calling me ma'am when I asked him to call me Amelia. A small thing, but names matter. We work shoulder to shoulder now. Schedules, meetings, contracts. And when the wait settles late in the afternoon, he brings tea and says, "Your father would be proud." I hope he's right. There's something messy at the heart of this, and I want you to sit with it because it matters beyond my house or my marriage. The proof that saved me came from a recording made without permission and a break-in that was technically a crime. The kiss that snapped me awake was a line crossed by a man who was trying to protect me. We talk about justice like it lives in clean boxes, but in the real world, power bleeds into institutions and people like me, women, wives, heirs. We get told to be patient, to be gracious, to not make a scene while the money moves out the back door. So tell me, do you think that's fair? If it were you, would you wait for permission to save your own life? I know what I chose. I chose to fight with the tools I had, to keep my father's name from being turned into a punchline, to step into rooms I used to send other people into for me. And I chose to honor loyalty. Dennis risked everything when he could have kept his head down and his job safe. Was the kiss wrong? Yes. Would I be here without it? Maybe not. That tension lives in me and I can carry it. There's one last scene I want to leave you with. Late evening city lights spread like spilled jewelry, a wind you can taste. I stood on the balcony with my hand on the rail, the way I did the night I almost lost myself. Inside, files were laid out in neat stacks for the morning. Dennis said he was heading out to check the route, and I told him good night. I looked out over the city and said, "Daddy, I kept my promise. I protected what you left." Down at the gate, the car headlights washed the drive, then moved like two bright eyes into the dark. I wasn't afraid of that darkness anymore. You walk into it when you know who's walking next to you. So here's your mini call to action one more time. Stick around, because the next chapter in your own story might be the one where you finally stop apologizing for surviving. And if you've ever had to record a truth nobody wanted to hear, if you've ever broken a small rule to stop a big wrong, I want to know. Do you think justice should always follow the rules when the powerful don't? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Argue with me if you need to. Tell me what you would have done. Before you go like this, if it made you feel something, share it with the friend who needs to remember. They're not crazy for noticing the cracks. And subscribe if you want more stories told the way they happen in real life. Messy, brave, complicated. And please tell me your story too. The time you stood up, the moment you almost broke and didn't. I'm listening, and so is someone who needs to hear you.